Would it be better?
I
That's okay. Whatever is most comfortable for you.
Okay.
Do you want to sit on the sofa or do you want to sit in chairs?
Oh no, this is fine. It's better than sitting in pink chairs.
And with that, I'm so excited to welcome you all to the episode with one of my favoriteest people ever in the world. He's also my only husband. Like, that's all
You said one of my favoriteest people, and also my only husband.
Pastor, that was on you.
It's true. You want me to
See,
lie?
I didn't do a thing.
You're my only husband.
Right. I mean, it's like my husband.
I'm making this to your favorite.
Gotcha. Okay. Continue. I wasn't tracking, but I'm tracking now.
It's too late.
Okay.
You ready?
Favorite person.
Oh God. Okay. Oh my God. So, I'm really excited that y'all are here. I'm excited that you all get to sit with my husband and I. He wasn't on season 1, but he has agreed to be on season 2. So if you have not met Robert Pindar, this is him.
Hey everyone, Robert Pindar, also known as Petra's husband.
He's my husband. And I'm really excited. We're going to laugh a lot this episode. I can promise you we're going to laugh a lot. And if you see me squinting my eyes at him, if you see me pinch him, just take it in stride. This is marriage. This is marriage. And we are as honest and transparent as possible with ourselves and with others. And we have not had a sit-down conversation in a long time. And so I asked him to be on this season. Do you want to say who you are other than being my husband? Or is it okay? Is there other things that you want them to know about you?
That's a pretty big accomplishment,
Yeah.
I would say. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Good start.
You earned some points.
Season 2.
It is.
All
It's
right.
a really good start. I like that. So.
I don't know. I could add a lot or I could say nothing.
It's up to you. What's best for you? You want to tell them about how you drive the algorithm up?
Y'all know.
They do. They do now. They do. So, I asked you to be on one because you weren't on season 1. We haven't had a sit down in a really long time. I value your thoughts, but also we are unique in that we are both oldest children, which is not necessarily what we see a lot of other relationships. A lot of times it's older children marry the youngest, or they marry the middle child, or youngest children seek out the middle and oldest child. But we are both the oldest children in our family, and we also have the oldest grandchild in our family. Right? Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty special, but it also has, I think, impacted our dynamic a lot, and how we engage with each other, how we engage with other people. And so I want to kind of give the structure for those who are going to be listening today. First, we're going to talk a little bit, and then there's also going to be some specific questions that we have received from some of our viewers who want to talk about very specific things when it comes to being an oldest child that they want us to touch on. So first, before we get to that, I want to ask you, I think the most important thing that I want to ask you first before we get to the questions is, do you or have you ever wanted to be anything other than the oldest?
Never.
Why?
Well, it probably goes in stages.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're young, being the oldest is the jam, because there's always a place that everyone recognizes. It's like first place, right?
Gotcha.
You're at the top of the podium, and I'm the shortest of my 3 brothers.
Same. I'm the shortest.
But they can't take that away. There's nothing they can do. I'm the oldest. It remains that way forever. So that part's cool. As I've gotten older, it also just kind of folds into expectations, responsibility, and things of that nature. And I prefer that. I prefer to have expectations, because if you have expectations, that means people think something of you.
Yeah.
And I prefer to be a person that folks think you can do certain things, you can achieve, you can be responsible, as opposed to not being asked to do those things.
Right.
So I prefer expectations. I prefer responsibility. I prefer the push. to be that way. So it's shifted a bit since I was a kid,
Yeah.
but that's how it is now.
Okay, I think that for me, I have, as I've gotten older, I think I've reconciled myself to this idea that I'm the oldest, and there's a reason for that. I don't think that I embraced it as much when I was younger. I didn't see it as like a badge of honor or a trophy. I felt like I struggled a lot with the responsibility of being the oldest, of always having to show up, take care of, make room for, kind of minimize my own needs and make sure that everybody else was taken care of. I think also because I'm a girl, not that there's anything wrong
No,
with
that's
being the
a
oldest, but I think
distinction.
I think that being the oldest and being a girl and having this additional responsibility of, even if I'm not going to carry on the name, it's important for me to impact the legacy was also a thing as well. And as an adult, realizing that I had to kind of work through that, right? Some of the resentment that I may have been holding, some of the brokenness that I don't think was addressed because I didn't always feel like I was as considered maybe as the younger ones, because it was always, well, you got it, you're capable, you understand, you know how to navigate, you know how to move. And so I think reconciling myself now as an adult to the Lord designed it this way on purpose. And so that's been different. And then being married to another oldest child who actually relishes being the oldest child, it has been, it has helped me to have a more positive viewpoint, I think, to see the beauty in being the oldest because you love it so much.
So, yes, that may be a bit strong, but so you got to think of it. If you step in my shoes,
Yeah.
right? I'm a twin,
Uh-huh.
so I won my first race.
Yeah.
Okay.
You did it. 'Cause
Right.
You got out
I
first.
got out first, right? I escaped, and so there's a bit of a, and as a twin, there's a continual, right? Compare, contrast. And that is, again, like I said earlier, that's something you always keep,
Yeah.
right? That is the gold medal
Yeah.
that you always keep. And so regardless of, you can beat me in other things, but that's one I could always, and again, I don't it's not a blunt object to beat over my brother's head or any of my brother's heads.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things like, hey, this is pretty cool, right? I enjoy it, I relish it, but also it's not free. It doesn't come without cost.
Yeah.
There's a really good song.
Okay.
It's called Surface. It's in the movie Encanto that I think probably a lot of firstborns would
Yeah, I like
relate
that.
to, right? Because it's about carrying the weight of the family and expectations, and they just heap stuff on you because you're supposed to be strong, like you're expected to be strong,
Expected to be, yeah.
and probably because they raised you to be strong, which is the general expectation.
Yes.
Right, we
Yes.
raised you, you were first, we're expecting these things out of you because that's what we've poured in you, hopefully. But I can see how at times you're like, hey, that may not be fair. That may not, that won't balance. You don't ask this of everyone else, you only ask this of me.
Right. Even if sometimes they do ask it of them, it doesn't feel like they ask it of them. So I do want to make that distinction too, right? Like, I think because we, as the oldest, are overly responsive in some ways. Like, I think that that's something that I also had to realize. Like, I didn't realize how responsive I was. And again, until I think we got married and you were like, you know that you can like say no. You can be okay with not being the one to do it. And I would feel very guilty. I think I would cry a lot. I would get really angry at you. And you'd be like, what do you mean I can't do that? I have to do these things. And then going to therapy and talking to the therapist and him being like, yeah, this is not healthy. You know what I mean? And you don't really think about those things. Because one, you don't choose your birth order, but I think that birth order is very real. If you haven't ever read about birth order, I don't subscribe to zodiacs or any of that other stuff. Birth order, yes, 1,000%. I think it describes us to a T. I think that we are perfectionists. I think that we are type A. I think that we are very focused. I think that if I had not met you, I would not have gotten married. I think that I was very much so a person.
Me too.
Yeah, but we've talked about this. Like it is very clear that we were meant to be, because if it wasn't for you and I, we would absolutely be single, be very career focused. We're career oriented now, but very, very career focused. We would not have families. Success would be outwards, like we're very driven people. And so having to kind of scale that back to build a family together, to build a life together has also been interesting, because I don't know if, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, I don't know if anything was ever scaled back to make room for me. And now having to do that to make space for other people, I don't know, it's been an interesting thing.
I was quite happy being, so oftentimes, to your point around letting things be outward, I was pretty happy with kind of having a lot of stuff flowing outward, because a couple things. Number one, I don't require much. I require actually very little in total, but also it gives you responsibility of things going through you to others, which again I think is pretty neat, because probably before being a Christian, it was like I get stuff first, but now it's like, hey, I can be the conduit through which things can enter other people's lives, and that's a pretty, that's the reward in of itself. However, I do understand now that there are certain things you will have these massive deficits because you never think to address them.
Yes.
Right. So, again, I would never have. I would probably have a house about the size of this room had I not got married. Right. There's no need for it. It was superfluous, but it is nice. Like, all those things are nice, but it just wasn't in demand, because you always have to. You're oftentimes thinking about what the needs of others are,
Yes.
as opposed to having any, significant portion of your life to ensure that you get the things that you need.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something very interesting to me, or in the conversation earlier. You mentioned the difference between you being a woman and a man in birth order, and where there may be some perhaps incongruencies or differences between the two. What did you mean by that specifically?
I think there's a lot more pressure on me as being the firstborn and being a girl. I think that there's a lot more weight, and it may just be because I'm a girl that I feel that way, but I feel like boys are inherently considered to be leaders. They are seen as, you can absolutely build with them. They make sense as coming first. Whereas I feel like I've always had to prove myself and go above and beyond. So for example, you mentioned the house, right? You're like, I could have lived in a room this size and been perfectly fine, like if I wasn't married. For me, and I know this now, I didn't realize it before, even when we started dating, the top of my list was always, I want a house, I want a house, I want a house, I want my own space, all the things. And I realized later that it was a trauma response for me, because as the oldest, I've always had to make sure that everybody else had, or I've always had to share. And so I wanted more space, because I don't want to share a room. I don't want people's things in my space. I want to be able to walk around and stretch, and it's mine. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was a thing, and realizing that it is a trauma response, because again, as a girl, you are seen as supposed to be more caring, more giving, more nurturing, and I am those things, but when it is required in seasons that you don't feel that you have it to give, it makes things very hard. But as the oldest, the responsibility doesn't change. You still have to do. You still have to show. And I want to be very clear, I absolutely love my siblings. My parents are fantastic parents. They have been great. But people being great and people being good to you does not change how you internalize things, or how your experience shapes your thoughts moving forward, or your view of yourself and your role. And so again, one of my favorite things, and why I believe that the Lord sent us to each other, was so I could be softer, because I think I would be even harder if we weren't together. Like I hope that people find me to be loving and caring, but when it comes to myself, I can be very, very hard on myself and have very high expectations of those that are really, really close. But I think being with you has kind of helped to soften that a little bit, because you were very, even when we were dating, absolutely not, say no, don't do that. You're tired. Go do something else. And I was like, we don't get that option. What are you talking about? Which I think speaks to you being a boy and me being a girl. Because you're like, yes, you can. I'm just not going. That wasn't the same options that were put on the table for me.
Is that a firstborn option thing, or is that, do you feel like
As
it's
a girl.
a girl?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
That's what I'm
okay,
saying. You as a boy, you had the option of, I'm not gonna do that. I don't want to do that. For me, as a woman, it did not feel like I had that option because you're also supposed to be led. Does that, you see what I'm saying? Like you are to submit, you follow the authority. What's laid before you, you do. Is that?
Yeah. No,
so
I
I was taught to excel at that, and you are taught to. And again, I'm speaking in very broad terms, y'all. You are taught to excel at leading because you're a man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything I can't do.
But
no, I sincerely mean that.
I agree with that.
And that's part of like how I was raised. I mean, I believe whatever I set my mind to. And remember, this was like the old school.
Yes.
Like you were raised in the '80s, like the PSAs in every cartoon.
Yeah.
You know, coming out of your parents are boomers, most likely coming out of the civil rights movement, all these things, these opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And so there was a huge emphasis on apply yourself.
Absolutely.
Don't doubt yourself. Like push. Do the things you can do. And so maybe just from a millennials. We're millennials. I'm kind of on the cusp.
Okay.
You're a little bit more, I think, settled into the millennials, right?
Is it based off of our high school years?
It's like 80s. When you born in the 80s.
Okay, I was
You're
born in the
millennial.
80s.
Yeah, but I'm born depending on which chart you looked at. Anyway, let's not get too much into that. But there are characteristics of different generations, and like again, between family life, between just the general environments and what was put into me at the time. I and again, maybe this is as a guy too. Maybe that, as I was growing up, I read these things differently. But leadership was a normative thing, right? It was an expected thing, but it wasn't I would say I do a lot of things out of duty, but not duty as like I gotta do this. It's duty because it's like, hey, this is what men do. This is what you should do, as opposed to like they're making me do these things. So I don't know that I ever saw it as a burden specifically. Maybe at certain moments. Maybe at certain moments. I don't recall them very well, but probably certain moments. But not for the vast majority of my life I ever had that experience. So it's interesting to hear. But also, I'm a twin, and so part of that is you have kind of a built-in person to lead all the time, right? And so because for you, like being a leader doesn't really happen until after your siblings are born, which wasn't long after, right? But it was like day 1, day 2, day 3. This is how everything began. So it'd be like asking me, what's it like being a twin? Like, I don't know what it's not like to be a twin. So what's it like being a single birth? I would never know that specifically. So we would be talking past each other in a lot of ways.
Which makes sense. And I think that's an interesting thing because one of the things you pointed out, you were born with someone to lead, essentially, right? Whereas mine came a little bit later. But even in that sense, even though I am the oldest, right? And so there is this inherent, you have to be an example, you have to show up, you have to give like all of the things. The story, and I don't know if I've ever shared this before. I think that I have. I think that I've shared this before. If I haven't, y'all forgive me. But the story that my mom will tell you is that they had my brother so shortly after me because they didn't want me to be spoiled. Exactly. And I was
Were you given signs that early? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh, okay.
and that's not the story. And I was like, that is horrible. Like, what are we talking about? But it was because of my health issues and all the other things. And so there were certain things with my care and, people always being around me, that kind of thing. And I guess my nature to be able to build relationships with people, I guess, I don't know how she put it, but, and I was like, and so even like when your perspective of I was born with someone to lead, I wasn't born with someone to lead, obviously, because I was a single birth, but also the person who came after me wasn't necessarily being sought as someone for me to lead, but for someone to keep me in line, right? That's hard because also, again, having to prove myself. No, I can do this. I have the ability to do things, and then it kind of turns into the other extreme because I took on this nature, and so then other people take on that perspective of you. Like, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, we don't need to ask you anything. You got it. Handle it. And it realized like, oh my gosh, but you're a child. You don't know that you've pivoted in such a way. I don't even think that I knew what a pivot was. How do you discuss that?
I just found out what a pivot was, or is. So yeah, I could agree. If you knew then,
Yeah, like I don't.
kudos.
No, I'm saying like I had no. You know what I mean? Like there's no way for me to know that, and so now you kind of look back over those things. I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. One, because someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, have you ever considered having this conversation?" And me sitting like, "No, I don't think I've ever shared this experience with anyone else."
Firstborn, in general, or okay.
Being a firstborn.
Yeah.
But also because this entire season is focused on reconciliation and restoration. And Sean, in her episode, she broke down what reconciliation is, and it's a breaking, right, from what once was, and then coming back together, right? And so realizing that I had to break out of what I considered to be the oldest child thing, responsibilities, roles, weights, whatever, breaking out of that and being reconciled with my position's not going to change, but also being restored to a better version of myself. And I'm in the process of that now. And so kind of doing it with you. Because you didn't break. You kind of
break what?
You've been good.
Oh yeah. For the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
it isn't that to say that I'm not as emotionally, historically speaking, probably not as emotionally sensitive to situations occurring to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, sometimes it is like, hey, and this would be a difference between kind of men and women and boys and girls. Like there's a different expectation. It's like, hey, your boy, suck it up, right? Don't cry about it. Like, duty in like the, hey, just get it done kind of sense versus duty in like, hey, this is a gift to you
For sure.
that you should perform, right? And so certain elements of it, there was no opportunity to reflect, shed a tear. It would just go out and leave. But I will say, I think, and I would imagine you have this experience where, as a firstborn, let me just say, even the people that know you're a firstborn, they may have commented about certain things, or they may have recognized certain attributes that are typically ascribed to firstborns, right? Like, hey, you're a great leader, it's a great job looking out for your siblings. Hey, that was very, very caring of you, and so on and so forth. So even if you want to turn those things off, in a very normal sense, if I'm talking to a 25-year-old and I'm talking to a 12-year-old, and I give them a scenario, I would expect, and I think universally we would expect more from the 25-year-old. I know there's a big gap.
Yeah.
Than you would expect from the 12-year-old, right?
For sure.
And so I think that would be a big piece of where the firstborn kind of ideology, that mindset comes from, is that, hey, you had a head start. Like, you should win this race. Like, you should be ahead and help the people behind you, catch up and succeed at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. I want to go into some of the questions that we've received because I think that would be helpful. And so, you ready for that?
Yeah, far away.
Okay. So I asked you before, I think one of my first questions was about being the oldest, right?
Yep.
But I don't think I asked it in this way. Do you think you'd be a different person if you weren't the oldest?
If I was second, that would be a very interesting journey to take. I have never given consideration to being anyone but me, the first one. And again, this is a juxtaposition of having a twin. Would I be different? Probably. I would guess. I wouldn't have had certain. So I'll give you an example. Personal story here. And feel free to edit this if you want to, but I recall vividly when my parents were divorced, or when they separated, whichever it was, and I wasn't in the weeds then. But I distinctly and vividly remember my dad coming to my window on the car and saying, "You're the man of the house now." So would that have probably changed had he come to the other side of the window? I would probably say yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it would have been like on, I don't know what the expectations specifically are for my siblings.
Yeah.
I just think that there is a general, I know what the expectations are for me,
Right.
for sure, and it is, don't fail.
Yeah.
I know that, but at
Absolutely.
the same time, I think I've always held that expectation for me, whether it's nature or nurture. I've never sought out anything but those things. So it's really hard to parse it out. But from the experiences I've had, I would probably say that I would not have had those same experiences had it not been for being the firstborn.
Yeah, I think that was some of mine too.
And my father, I shared my name with my father and my grandfather, so that may also bleed into it a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember you also being really clear that we didn't want to do that to our boys because of the weight of that.
Well, I wanted them to be able.
Besides, Robert is Robert. I wanted a different name.
Okay. I was like, what you say about Robert? No, well, and I wanted them to be able to have something that was theirs. They're gonna have Pindar regardless, but I wanted them to have something that fits them and works for them. So, yes,
Yeah.
Robert is Robert.
I only
Yes.
wanted one Robert. I wanted it to be one in the house. Okay, what's how has being the oldest shaped the way you see family responsibility?
Oh, in the context of this family, or just in like
Let's just
broader
say-
family?
No, let's talk about our family.
Okay.
I think that's probably
I would hope it wouldn't differ from most people. I don't think it does. Maybe it does. I don't know. But I think in general is lead your family, which I think is kind of that's the call for all.
yeah.
Lead your family. Where I can say where I may have blind spots is for perhaps Sterling and Everly. Like I don't have an experience, like a life experience that matches theirs. But I can share with Jack. Hey, yeah, I know what that's like. Like
Right.
if you feel pressure, I know I can tell you, get used to it, because that's coming regardless.
Yeah.
Even if we're not applying it, right?
Right.
There's going to be just, and then what I can say though is from the comments I've heard, like my little brother went to the same school we went to, and when folks have gone ahead of you and they've kind of there's a path there,
Right.
and there's also an expectation for them to have to follow that. So there is the awareness. Each of you are individuals, like they have certain expectations of and for yourself, and don't try to be anyone else,
Right.
because that is the worst thing you can be trying to do is, do what someone else did, because they will always do them better than you can do them. So
That's very true.
be the person you have to be for that. But I don't think it would be. I don't know that it'd be. Do you think it'd be markedly different? Let me ask that.
I do think that we are hypersensitive when it comes to providing for our family. I think that
That's
that's
fair.
something that comes from being the oldest, and again, making sure that everybody is good, just like your dad saying you're the man of the house, me feeling, okay, I gotta make sure that I'm measuring up, that I'm doing all the things. Like, I do think that we are hyper performative in that way. Like, I know that even now, you'll stay up super late to make sure that things are covered. And granted, it's so that we have a very comfortable life, and that, some of these crazy things I'd be asking you for, we could do. But I do think that that does come from us being the oldest, that both of us
Okay. So
are very
behaviors.
focused.
Okay,
I do.
that's probably fair. But I would expect similar things. I personally would expect similar things from, other husbands in general. I don't know. I have to ask.
Yeah.
That's a good question though.
I think it's a good conversation to
Yeah.
have with other people to see.
But I could say like, yeah, this ain't about fail,
Right.
right? Like we'll put in. I will certainly give up sleep and other things for this.
Absolutely.
And maybe that folds in from the firstborn, like having to give up things to make sure others have it.
That makes sense.
So, perhaps.
Okay.
But that'd be interesting to maybe there's another interview for a second, third, fourth. Born,
That's a good idea.
not second, third, fourth, firstborn.
I think that's fair. Okay, so let's do this, since we're talking about family dynamics.
Okay.
All right, what's one lesson you learned as the oldest that you carry into your family?
Ooh, just one, huh?
Mm-hmm.
As the oldest, I would probably say that it is okay to have people family, whoever, have expectations of you. That is to have expectation is a good thing. Like, God has expectations of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, no one's like, oh my goodness, he has expectations of me. That's a good thing. He does not, and he empowers you, obviously, to fulfill those expectations. But to have expectations of you is and I think I see it more now, that expectations are seen as negatives, whereas I would say being picked to be the leader of a team is a huge positive. I mean, because that means that in before anything, interactions, people see certain qualities in you that they want to imitate or follow.
That makes sense.
I think that should be a huge honor, unless you're doing wrong. You could probably say even in negative situations, that's the case, right? So I think having expectations and partly because, and this is probably coming from the firstborn side of things, is that there's expectations on us, and I think by extension, there's going to be expectations on our children, and that is an okay thing. It's okay to have those in place. We shouldn't be applying additional burden to that, but we should be helping them to build a strong mindset, strong mentality, a strong back, whatever it is, so they can thrive with those expectations as opposed to having to be beaten up by them. So I would say just the ability to carry out the things that are expected of you, and hopefully you have your own expectations of yourself that then you can carry forward, because I don't think anyone's going to ever put more pressure on me than I do, well, except for God, obviously, but not more than I do myself.
Right.
I fully expect to go through certain things well.
That makes sense to me.
And so I would hope our children do the same.
Okay, so talking about our kids, I want to ask, do you think that your experience of being the firstborn has helped with your parenting style with Jackson versus you with your dad?
Can you ask that question again?
Sure.
Let me just.
Do you think that your experience, being the oldest, has, being the firstborn of your dad, right, has helped with your parenting style with Jackson versus how you were parented by your dad? Has your experience being parented by your dad impacted the way that you parent Jack?
I think a combination of life experiences has probably done that more, and certainly a big part of my life experience is being a firstborn. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's the penultimate element of who I am, even though it does influence a lot of areas of my life. I would, as I think about it, my parenting style with Jackson has evolved. There's been a lot of adaptation over time. But I would say the general pulse of it has been help him become who he needs to be, the best person he can be. Because again, I knew things, or I had expectations. I knew when I was 6, I was going to be a systems programmer, and that was my goal. I didn't have a computer until I was in college, right? But I was like, I'll be a systems programmer, and I was 100% certain of that at 6. And if you ask, he has a lot of passions, a lot of desires. I knew what mine was, and so it was very easy for me to say, to think, if I'm thinking for him, can you, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't count that. He doesn't need to be that, right? Just like a lot of kids don't need to be that. Well, they need to be as nurtured into the best to who they need to become. And that may take, you may know at 6, you may know at 7, you may know at 21.
Right.
And so it's easier, particularly as you kind of adapt to the fact that, hey, they are not me.
Yeah.
And particularly, if we're talking about Jackson, he's not me. And, that's probably a net positive for him in certain ways, right? Because he can't be me. He should want to be me, and so far as I do things that are aligned to caring for my family and following Christ and those types of things. But he's gifted in a different and uniquely valuable way, and he should maximize that value as opposed to what I'm responsible for is maximizing what I create in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it's a good point. That's interesting.
And what's the part? What part?
Like, so I think it's almost like you've given Jackson to figure out who he wants to be, even as he's a kid, right? Like a lot of us, we give the freedom when they're older, like, okay, you can figure stuff out now. But I think that one of the things that I'm hearing you say is you have given him grace to kind of not struggle, but kind of experiment. You like this, you like this, you like this. That's okay. But you don't have to narrow it down to one thing. It's not a failure not to know exactly what you want to do when you're done. Because again, for us, it was, okay, I want to do this. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is where I'm going. I have this plan. Whereas Jackson is allowed a lot more latitude in figuring out what his next is, whatever that looks like.
Yes, and that's good for him. You know, there is a huge benefit in acknowledging that people are different, and in their differences is where they're able to blossom, they're able to shine.
Yeah.
So if I plant him in try to plant the same soil with the same ingredients, all this stuff that worked for me, now certain things are going to be, you know, kind of generally the same, right? You need a loving environment, you need support, you need all those things. But if I try to give him the same soil, the same diet of whatever I receive, he may not respond well to that, right? He needs a different set of ingredients, and so helping him navigate, have some struggles, learn how to overcome and think through his challenges, ask questions. Like those are things I got to do.
Right.
And again, I got to be a systems programmer, and then I was like, what next? And then and at that point in life, I was kind of at a crossroads. And maybe he doesn't have that same difficulty because he's given so much more thought to it and had the flexibility and freedom. I dialed myself into a certain way of being early, and then I had to make a bunch of pivots later in life because I was able to, because I reached that goal and I didn't have the next and the next and the next thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll have a different struggle, but hopefully it's not that one.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. We don't want to minimize the struggles.
Yeah, I prefer them. Struggles, I mean, they're good. They're good ingredients.
Yeah. In some ways. Yeah.
That's what James says.
Again.
That's one of my favorite. When I started pushing that James 1 was, I was like, oh, there it is. In fact, my favorite Bible verse talks about struggles. Like literally, John 16:33 is the struggle verse.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm very comfortable like encountering conflict, collisions, those kind of things,
Yes.
because those are the things that make those things make you better.
Yeah.
If you allow them to.
I agree. I do agree with you that. I think one of the things I tell people all the time, like, conflict is healthy. If you're constantly running from things that oppose what you feel and what you view, you're never going to get any growth. You're never going to mature. And so you'll always be stunted emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. Like, you have to have some type of conflict. It really helps you to blossom. You know what I mean? So I definitely understand that. But I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Let me ask you a question now?
Oh. Would you like that same question?
Let me ask you a question.
Do you want the list, or you just want to?
You have a list.
I do. I have some that people had asked
Okay,
us.
but let me
You don't
ask
have to use these up.
Don't worry, I can freestyle now. So.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. How much time we got? Okay. All right. So, question for you: in your firstbornedness, it's a new word.
That is a new word.
Bornedness. Yes. $5 whoever can spell that. Are we doing that?
Sure.
Okay. Hey pretty mug.
Thank you, mug.
Okay, mugs. Mugs. All right. So as far as if you had to do it over again, would you elect not to be the firstborn?
If you asked me 20 years ago, my answer would have been yes. Yeah, 1,000%. I did not want to be their firstborn. I felt like they had it so much easier. It was great for them. Now,
What is
life?
Okay.
It was easy. It was, I mean, a lot of things that I felt I had to work at, figure out, ask permission for like just whatever the process was in that moment. Again, because I was much younger, so you also have to realize significantly less mature too, right?
Mhm.
Like not being able to see the full picture. I would have said yes, I want to switch places. I don't want to be the oldest. But now, I wouldn't switch. I wouldn't switch at all.
Are you happy? Maybe, okay, hold on. Joyful. Does it bring you joy to be the oldest now?
No.
Why not?
I think for a really long time, I focused too much of myself on that part of my identity. And so I've had to do the work of kind of separating myself from that, which I think brings me more joy. I don't think about being the oldest first anymore.
Okay. So avoiding the. Sorry, I thought I saw a sign. So avoiding. so avoiding the. Is it avoidance, or is it's not front and center
It's
in
not
my
front and center.
thoughts anymore?
Right. There's no avoidance. I am the oldest. I embrace being the oldest. I am honored that the Lord saw fit that I came first. That's cool. But it is not the first thing that I think about when I rank who I am and what I am. Like, it's not the first thing. And it used to be, I'm also the oldest child. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be, if I was giving an intro to myself, my bio, it would be there.
Okay.
In fact, I'm pretty sure it used to be in my bios, and then I removed it.
I'm sorry, you had that in your Facebook bio in the day? Is that what you're saying?
No, like my actual like Pindar bio. I actually had that I was the oldest child, and I would list my parents' name. It was a huge part of my identity.
Okay. So in that sense, were you very? Was it an honor to your parents more than it was a value to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. But now I see it as an honor for me, right? And so that's great. It's not predicated on anyone else. I realized again that the Lord had purpose and plan, and it was a part of my own skewing that got it to where it wasn't in a healthy place. Because again, I want to point out over and over again, my parents are great. Like, they weren't beating it down my throat. Now, did they have silent expectations? Were there things that were happening that did feed that? Yes, but that's human nature. We all have that in different relationships. But I do not have joy attached to being the oldest. I have joy being detached from that part of my identity in a sense.
Okay, last question. Did you ever, and so I asked this question because I see this happen a lot, is that we have tons of assumptions, we have tons of ideas about what people think, and we never actually confirm them. We just internalize them and say, I'll answer it before you even ask, right? I know what you're thinking, and it's like, that was what I was thinking, but we never know. So, in your firstbornness, did you ever confirm your expectations with your parents?
After therapy.
Okay.
So.
So you had to actually get help before
Yes.
having that conversation
Yes.
with them.
Yes.
Was that out of just the inability to ask them, or I know this is another question. Right?
That's the major one.
Yeah. Well, this is a follow-on to that one,
Yeah,
so it's a natural flow of things. So don't ding me on this. But so was it because that was empowering, or you didn't have the confidence or courage to do so, or were you finally kind of more so had a deeper awareness that you actually had never confirmed those things with them, or had a discussion around being the firstborn? Because I'll tell you this. To this day, I've never had the conversation outright. I just accept it, and I'm curious how you came to that. Now, my mom has mentioned birth order and things like that, but I'm curious. Did they empower you to do that, or was it because you didn't want to ask out of like fear or some other drive towards not knowing?
Got it. So I think that I was in a really hard place in general, and so everything was coming to a head. And so sitting in therapy and kind of working through that and realizing that I also didn't have the language for what was happening with me. And so working through that, being given the language and an awareness for what was happening, and then being empowered through the work on myself to go have the hard questions. I don't know that I was scared of talking to my parents. I don't think that I knew that I needed to talk to them at first. Like, I didn't realize how bad things were until they were really, really bad.
Okay.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like,
Yeah.
because it was so normative to me up until that point, until I was literally like, what is wrong? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, what is happening? And then, okay, this is what's happening. Here's what this means. This is the language for that. This is why you should have this conversation. Have the conversation when you feel that you can walk through it in peace, not in chaos, because it's also a thing. And so taking my time with that, and so doing it on my timing, because it didn't need to be on theirs. They didn't even know there was a problem.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
But the reason I even knew that I needed therapy was because my dad said it. He was like, something is wrong. He's like, I've never seen you like this. You are so unhappy. You're calling me crying, and you'll never call me crying. He was like, what is happening to my child? And I was like, what? And he was like, something's wrong. He said, if I can't help you, if your mom can't help you, you need to get help. And I think that I talked to you about it for a couple of years, and it was like 2 years that we talked about it, and I just I didn't feel supported in that way. And again, this is not that you didn't necessarily support me, but because I was having to work through all of the blinders and walls that I had built up to go back to his conversation and realize that he was giving me the permission that I didn't know I needed.
Okay.
Because it was like, I'm gonna have to tell on what I feel is bad from, what I was raised with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
It's good access to yourself though,
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
I do not know that, I just don't, I don't know that I would even be aware of that unless someone told me as well,
Yeah.
right? Because it's hard to see, like, when you're dialed into something and you've been a certain way for a certain amount of time, and it's pretty much endemic to you,
Yes.
if you will. It's like, hey,
Yes.
this is in my, it's almost DNA. But I can't get rid of it.
It's in your blood.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It's literally in your blood, which again, I'm grateful for where I'm at. I believe that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm honored that I'm the firstborn. I'm really happy I'm married to another firstborn, because you get
Me too.
a lot of things.
I think other folks would probably get mad at me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Because remember when we first got married, I was traveling,
Mhm.
and it was like, hey.
And that wasn't a problem.
I know. I was
for
like,
us.
it's not a problem.
That never.
Oh, this is good.
Mm-mm.
This
And
is
someone
great.
else asked me, I was like, no, actually, what are we talking about? And I think that was, again, why we work so well. Like, I tell you all the time, like, definitely my best friend, but really my friend, like.
And your favorite person.
And my favorite person.
Okay.
My favorite
With a period.
person. With a period.
There we go. All right. Continue.
But I would not have married anyone else. Like, if we had to do this all over again, if we made the mistake of not saying yes to one another, I can promise you I would not be married to anybody else. Wrong with that. Like,
Yeah, you slid in on my 30th birthday right before then, because I made a promise to myself, and I probably would have kept it. I think I would have. I'm pretty good at keeping promises.
Yeah, me too.
So.
Actually, because I had made the
Because that
same
was the first
promise
one thing,
that
right?
fall. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this even if it hurts.
Yeah, right before that fall, before I met you, I had said I'm not dating anymore. I'm good. Yeah, I'm over that. And then I met you in January.
And I said, if I get to 30, I'm going to put in the work at work, and that was going to be it. Well, in church service and things like that. But so yeah,
I caught you right
yeah,
there.
just happened to nab me. And, got the tranquilizer.
It worked out.
It worked out. It worked out.
I do. I'm glad that you sat with me today. I don't know how you
This
feel
was
about this conversation.
No, this was
but
fun. I learned a lot in this conversation. Just transparency, some vulnerability. I thought I saw you tearing up a little bit earlier, which is cool.
Such a
What? No, it's good. No, it's good to discover like the things that move people.
okay.
It's like, okay, this is an important topic. This is a place of like, hey, I have some some emotions and I have an investment here.
Mhm.
This is important. So yeah, I think that's pretty dope.
I mean, in general, I'm more emotional than you, though.
In general, you are.
Mhm.
Yes. I still cry.
Yes.
I Lion King. big deal. Also grew up in the generation with a lot of the Disney movies that showed extensive amounts of fatherlessness, right? But I did have, and this is where God played some things out, had a ton of great teachers who led me. I can rattle them off by name. Coaches who led me, I can rattle off by name. Friends, older friends who led me, who I could rattle off by name. And so in some of those areas where maybe I would have led myself astray, I had tremendous examples of how to lead, how to do it correctly, you know, without a father in the home, and also probably with a fair amount of arrogance around what being a leader is, and being able to see examples of these are what good leaders look like. This is why sometimes you do it out of duty because you have to. This is why sometimes you do it out of loyalty, and you do it out of appreciation for other people, out of their sacrifices, all those things. So when I say that this, like, having difficulty is not a problem, it is, like, that is the reality of life. Like, it is meant to be challenging, but out of those things you always you get something better as a result. But it's only through the work of it, whether that's leading, whether that's providing, whether that's, you know, even this conversation being empathetic, right?
You did a good job.
And so I've learned a lot about that over the past
Almost
13 years, right? So that makes me a better leader as well. Firstbornness enhanced. The enhanced version, firstbornness plus, right? But even that is just part of our identity. It's not the, it doesn't tell the whole story whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. And I think that the most important thing is that we get to decide what tells our story. We get to decide. Our birth order doesn't do that. Our parents don't do that. Our siblings don't do that. We get to decide. And that's predicated on our relationship with Christ and submitting and surrendering to Him and trusting that where He leads us, He also goes. And so I think that that's really, really important for us to remember, because for many of those who are firstborn, it can seem like everything is mapped out, and that we don't have a say, but we do. We 1,000% do.
And this would be the arrogant part for me. It'd be like, Christ was the firstborn.
It was.
Like,
It was.
I don't know what to tell you.
It was. And I'm grateful. I am grateful. So thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. I love you very much. I'm really glad that you're my favorite person, and that we are oldest together, and that we also have the oldest grandbaby. So before we go, I have some rapid fire questions that I want to do with you. There's 2 of them.
Okay,
You ready?
let's go.
All right, so the first one is, what song do you currently have in heavy rotation for worship? Or praise, whatever.
Ooh. Because I have children right now, and you have to find things that also work for them that they can latch onto. So we've been enjoying Forrest Frank, Your Way's Better, right now. Primarily because it's something that it's simple, it's a great vibe, and this is something the kids can listen to when I'm taking them to school or riding somewhere. So I enjoyed that, and that's been in heavy rotation on my playlist because it is something I can share with my kids a little more easily.
I love that. Okay, last one.
Yep.
What scripture are you heavy on in this season? What scripture do you keep going back to?
So I've actually been refocused on my, primarily my favorite scripture, which is John 16:33. These things I say to you, that you may have peace in the world. You will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. I think just given the broad climate that we're experiencing, you just have to remember, like, hey, we still have peace in Jesus. And I don't usually lose my peace. I don't feel like I don't tend to like fall down deep, but I am responsible for others, and at my job, you know, obviously with family, extended family, church, you know, I do feel a burden for others, and so I have to remind myself, and you know, through the scriptures, that we have peace, and then the objective then would be to share that peace with others, despite whatever they may be going through. So that's been important, and of course James 1, like, you know, it's when you're going through trials, that's actually, like, this is a season of opportunity, because when you're going through challenges, that is actually when God is able to do some greater work, right? But oftentimes we see it as just like, this is just painful. And so even at work, we've been going through some challenging times for a variety of reasons, and I think for a lot of the right reasons at times. But I position like, hey, this is great. Like, we don't get to have this much opportunity because things are so disruptive. Even in the house, it's like, hey, if the kids are maybe a little funky, hey, this is an opportunity for us to understand them better, to pray for them more, to help them come through that season better. And then on the other side, and we've seen the fruit from that. We've seen them get to the other side of different challenges. And that's why I don't go challenge hunting necessarily, but I do, well, maybe I do in certain areas, but I do enjoy when there are challenges, because for the believer, those are like God's prime moments to start to move and do something spectacular in our lives and other people's lives. So I would say that those scriptures specifically are what I've been focusing on.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing those. We're going to add that to our current playlist for the girls, but also add your scriptures to our scripture bank for them to study.
High five.
High five. That's it. I love you.
Love you more.
Talk to you soon.
Beat that.
Bye, y'all. So, you have just finished the episode with me and Robbie, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope that for those of you who are the oldest, that you feel heard, that you feel seen, and that you realize that your value is not in your birth order. And if you're not the oldest, I hope that you gain greater perspective on what it's like for those of us who are, and the burden and responsibility that we have, but also our love and joy to do it. Because it isn't easy, but it is something that once we come to the right headspace, we realize that the Lord has gifted and honored us in a very special way. And so again, this entire season is about reconciliation, restoration. And this may not have seemed like that conversation, but it is. It is. Because I personally had to come to this place where I was willing to be broken of my misconceptions, my preconceived notions of what it means to be the oldest, to be put back together in a better way, to embrace who God has actually called me to be as the oldest. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode.